Welcome to oil and acrylic painting. I like to always start my demos from the studio view, so here I am. Today I will be first going over the supplies. It's kind of a way you can double check the list that I gave you and then look at my supplies and my studio setup and see where that matches. I will be honest, sometimes I swap out colors, add an extra palette knife, because I do teach right here from my studio in downtown Los Angeles, and I am very authentic and organic about how I do my work, and I always share that with you. So I say with everything, with my exercises or my assignments, I give you a structure. It's okay to go off on your own tangent if you'd like. I give you a guideline for what supplies make sense. If you have some things you want to add or subtract, that's fine. If you're not 100% sure, you can always just reach out to me and I can tell you whether or not that will work. Like a substitute, or if you don't have something, if that will work for you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the supply table. I'm gonna show you what the acrylic and the oil supplies look like. I'm also gonna do the first demo today, and when I do that, I usually go from an overhead camera view. So I'll switch to my overhead camera and show you the kind of initial exercises that we will be working on. Okay, that's all for now. I'll see you at the supply station. Okay, so this is a tour of the madness that is supplies. I like to be very authentic and show you my studio, yay, as I show you supplies. Pickles also likes to be in my videos. That's my senior doggy right there, so you'll see him pop in and out. For example, on the wall right here, those canvases haven't been touched yet. You'll probably see throughout the semester, I'll use some of my demo instruction on these, especially when it comes to grounding them. But I hang my canvases on the wall to paint. I have stacked an easel right here just so you could see what a table easel looks like, but that's not something that I generally use unless I'm doing smaller work. So just to kind of give you some authenticity here, this is how I hang my work to paint. When I am giving you a demo, for the most part, unless it's something larger that I need to show you there, I will be at this overhead camera angle, and I usually attach a small canvas here, a small panel, or tape paper to this board if it's a study on paper. Okay, so that gives you kind of an idea of the layout and how you'll be seeing things function. Let me start over here real quick to see what I have. This is kind of a watercolor setup, so sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of watercolor in case you want to do studies. These are canvas boards. You can kind of collect a series of those if you want. Oops, sorry, my finger there. They tend to be a little inexpensive, and you can do studies on these. They're both good for oil and acrylic. This is a hardwood panel. There will be a segment where I show you how to oil prime this, and you can gesso these as well, but they usually you cannot paint directly on these. They have to be primed. They tend to be on the more expensive side, but it's a beautiful surface. You can see it's quite smooth. So I do have this out because there will be a segment where I do go over that this semester. These are small little sketchbooks that hold watercolor, ink, pencil. They are Arteza brand. So these are sometimes nice to have to do layouts, but you can also do your standard sketch pad like I have here, and any size kind of works. So you can see some of my sketches are here where we can do thumbnails. This is just your standard sketch paper, okay? Again, fine-tooth surface. Try not to get my finger in there. 50 pounds. This is 11 by 14. You can always go smaller than that. I also keep tracing paper. Sometimes it's nice to trace segments of drawings or studies onto the canvas so we don't have to do it over and over. When you get tracing paper, you also want to get the transfer paper. I get the standard old school one, Serral. I order it online, and again, the blue goes against the surface, and this is what sticks up towards you. If I use it, I will demo that for you. Okay, many of you have used that before. It's just your kind of standard tracing paper setup. I talk a lot about color, so you're really going to want to have a color wheel in your studio. And a lot of times I bring this out and go over what that means. Okay. And the other thing is I grab color charts. This is actually for Nova Color. So any paint that I buy, I grab the chart from the store. And what this does is help you understand, and many know that I like to talk about this, what is warm and cool. So cool yellow, warm yellow, okay? Warm red, cool red, warmer blue, cooler blue. And this is important because that helps you decide what you want to substitute. If you don't have exactly the paint you want at the store or you want to experiment, if you understand what is warm and cool, you know, for example, if you commonly use ultramarine, but notice that phthalo can be as cool as ultramarine, you might swap it out for a couple paintings. If you know that you like cerulean for your warmer blues, let me get closer there, but look how much brighter a phthalo turquoise is on the chart, okay? So I do recommend grabbing these, especially for the paint that you're using. It can solve a lot of the mystery behind the colors that you use. I'm gonna show you how to prep paper. I always recommend getting Bristol for this. So I gesso paper and then I tape it down, and you can use this as a surface. Again, it can be smaller than this, but it's really a neat surface for painting and can hold both oil and acrylic. I highly recommend just getting smooth Bristol. You can get watercolor paper as well, but it's kind of a waste of the surface of the watercolor paper. Like, it has a nice texture, and if you just cover it in gesso, it kind of ruins it a little bit. But printmaking paper can work sometimes. Okay, the ruler, any kind of ruler will do. I tend to grab ones that are T-squares so you can have good angles, but these not necessarily just for just a second. Let me take a break real quick. So yes, a straight edge can help you with lines. We're not going to be doing a ton of charts, but you can also just use your standard ruler. I just happen to have a lot of T-squares, so I use that. Paper towel tower, I use Viva paper towel. I use a yogurt tin and just some rags. So you can see I sometimes do mixed media, so I keep my scrap paper around. For painting, I have just a series of brushes, little brushes. These are oil and acrylic brushes, those catalyst ones. Sometimes I just like these kind of kitchen utensils, a spatula. I sometimes use rollers. So these are those spongy ones, and then I keep the handle that I can attach or I can stick through here. These are great for acrylic oil. It gets really gunked up, but for acrylic, you can really clean them out. I recommend those over your standard roller because they're just squeezy and easy to clean, okay? And I get those at the hardware store, to be honest. So again, a range of brushes. We have flats, we have rounds, filberts, things like that, and I just put them in bins. Some are older, some are newer. An old used brush can come in handy. Something like this can help you just if you're using medium or something like that. But you kind of want to keep a range. Keep your old ones around, but grab your new ones too. For acrylic, I use a lot of Nova Color. I buy it in about this size, okay? And you can use golden is a good one too, but I buy it in about that size, and then I either put in tinier squirt bottles or just paint from here, when I need to use that. This is my oil paint. I use a range of Gamblin and Williamsburg. I also like to have sandpaper around. Again, every time I paint, I will tell you what the palette is, and I'll be painting, sometimes demoing in oils and sometimes demoing in acrylics. So I'll switch it up. I like to have my charcoal and pastels kind of handy. These can either go onto the canvas or be used for my thumbnail sketching, okay? Over here, now let's look at some mediums. I have matte medium. I have a jar. I use a metal or glass jar for my painting medium, solvents and things. Wax medium, this is for oil painting. Liquid, that is for glazing, and this is linseed stand oil or your standard linseed oil is often what I use. I just need to get a new bottle of that. And then this solvent-free gel really comes in handy. This can be used as a medium, and it also kind of cleans your brushes. This is for oils. So oils, all of this here, and then matte medium and water for acrylics. Okay, so oils. I'm not heavy. I don't think mediums really make the entire thing. Really nowadays the paint can if the paint is older and drier, you're probably going to need a lot of medium, but most of the paint is mixed with extra linseed oil, so you'll find it moves pretty well on its own. But I will show you how to kind of make thin washes on your early layers, and so at that point you might want to be using some, I use Gamsol because it's a good mineral spirits. It's low in toxicity, okay? So palettes, this is your standard. If it's waxy, that's for oil painting. And sometimes I just put that down on the table and tape it there and then take it off. As you can see, I have a rolling cart here. So I have this one, and there's one way back there. That's another rolling cart that I keep my supplies on. For acrylic, I really recommend the Stay Wet acrylic palette. You get the Masterson thing to house it, and then there's a sponge. You wet that. You can see mine are very used. You put the paper on top, and it helps the acrylic stay wet for longer when you're painting. And that one, you do kind of want to keep in the plastic here and kind of keep it contained. But for the oils, you can kind of lay them out and tape them down and then throw them away. I do a bit both. I use glass, but sometimes this is just a little easier to lay out and throw away. So that's really up to you. Okay, that is kind of madness, but you can see that this is what you might want to have at any given time, or this is just all the things that you could maybe grab. When I do get ready to, again, demo for you, I take everything over here and I show you the surface that I'm using and then the palette and the subject and go from there.